Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a 1-year review of my Honda Accord Sport 2.0. After owning it for 1 year, I thought that I had some great information to share, and I want to tell you 5 things that I love about the car and 5 things that I don't love. First up, the engine. The engine is fantastic. Essentially, this is the same 2-liter engine that is in the Honda Civic Type R, and there are some small differences. It's been detuned, but the engine is awesome. For a front-wheel drive car, it's almost too powerful. This engine is a 2-liter turbo. It makes 252 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And the acceleration, it's close to 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It is really, really fun and really, really fast. It's smooth. It's not too loud. Honda's did an excellent job with it. Next up, the transmission. Honda's always excellent manual transmissions continue to shine. And this 6-speed manual is smooth, engaging, and fun. Because there is so much power, you often don't have to shift as much as you would do in some other vehicles, and that makes it a little easier to handle in heavy traffic. The transmission to me is one of the highlights of the vehicle. I'm not sure we'll see many more powerful 4-door sedans with manual transmissions, so I think this may end up being one of the last of its kind, and that's a shame, but I'm glad that Honda has put this together so we can take advantage of it for the time being. Honda, thank you so much for bringing back knobs to control the volume and to change the radio station. The previous Honda I owned did not have knobs, and to adjust the volume you had to use a slider on the touchscreen, which was almost impossible to do while you're driving along. All of the other switchgear in here is typical Honda. It's well laid out and it feels like high quality, and everything you need to reach is within reach of the driver. I also really like the seats on this car. Even after being in the car for 4 or 5 hours in one day, I find I don't have a sore back or feel uncomfortable in any way. I do wish the seats had a memory setting because my fiance and I are very different heights, and it does take a while to adjust the seat from all the way to the front to all the way to the back. For this reason, I honestly would have just preferred completely manual adjusting seats. The infotainment system is also pretty good. I use an iPhone, so the vehicle has CarPlay and it works seamlessly. It's stable, it's fast, and it's reliable. I've never had any instances where it's frozen or locked up or required me to restart the car or the system. Also, the gauge cluster is pretty cool too. On the right, you have an analog speedometer, and on the left, you have an LCD screen which can display a variety of different things. I normally leave it set to the tachometer, but there are other options like fuel economy, settings to show you how alert you are, or how close the car in front of you is. So those are the good things. And now let's talk about the not so good. After owning the car for 1 year, here are my biggest annoyances. First up, the positioning and cushioning of the center console is a big irritant for me. I'm 6'1" and my knee is pressed right up against the hard plastic of the center console. I'd really appreciate this if it was padded or if it was just set back a little bit more so your knee wasn't jammed right into it while you're driving along. I have gotten used to it by now, but for the first several months of ownership, long drives would tend to lead to a very sore knee. Next up, the fuel economy. Okay, I know this car is not focused on fuel economy, and I know it's a lot of fun, and the point of this car is to be able to enjoy the power, and fuel economy is not its primary focus. However, the fuel economy is worse than I expected. I've been getting around 9 liters per 100 kilometers since owning the car, and that's really only about 20% better than the F-150 I had before this Accord. On its own, this wouldn't bother me a whole lot, but when it's coupled with my next point, it becomes a much bigger deal. The size of the fuel tank. In this car, it is only 50 liters. That's about 13 gallons, and I'm constantly visiting the gas station. Right now, the tank is about half full, and it's showing a range of less than 250 kilometers. If Honda had been able to fit this car with a 65 or even a 70-liter tank, it would have made a huge difference. Next, the driver assist functions. I know these can be very controversial. Some people don't like them at all and think these are nannies and they're irritating. I normally don't mind them, and I do use adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, and I find it helpful, and it can make long drives pretty nice. But in owning the car for 1 year, there have been 5 times where I've had problems. I've had 2 parking brake failure see dealer messages, which is really irritating because when you see this, you cannot apply the parking brake. In a car with a manual transmission, this is a big deal. After shutting the car off, turning it back on, and driving around the block, it was working again, and I did take the car to the dealer, but of course, they couldn't find any problems or reproduce the issue. Second, I've had 3 occurrences where the adaptive cruise control has had a problem, and it flashes up an orange warning message which says, collision mitigation braking system problem, see your dealer. Again, after shutting the car off and turning it back on, there's no issue and the problem has gone away. Like the braking problem, the dealer hasn't been able to find anything wrong. My final irk is with the TPMS system. I'm going to compare this to my F-150 again, which had active TPMS, but I grew to really like it. You could look at each tire pressure independently, unlike the Accord, which uses the ABS system to detect when there's a problem. There is no warning lights or there's no ability to look and see what the pressure is of each tire. It just lets you know when it thinks there's an issue. Unfortunately, it seems very sensitive and it has triggered warnings on things like bumpy roads, going over potholes, or if you're driving on a road with loose gravel and one of the wheels slips. This leads me to pull over, obviously concerned, and check the tire pressure of each tire to see if there's any of them that are low on pressure. These have all been false positives. Overall, I think these are relatively minor annoyances, and the car has overall been fantastic. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to anyone, especially if you feel you can live with the problems I just outlined. The car is a lot of fun, it's really nice, and it's really comfortable to drive. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and check back next week to see what's next. Bye for now.